Hello, my name is Frisky. Today we are taking a look what actions a coach can do for a team before a match. We will focus on scouting, anti-strating, preparation and game plan. Before looking at the opponent, you should understand your own team. How does your team play? What are your tendencies? What are your core values? What are the things that you do consistently? This understanding can create opportunities already, regardless of the map pool or scouting availability. Let's talk about possible maps. First, understand the map pool. Look at the Instabank's recent map history. Of course, in best of ones, there are fewer possibilities. When you're headed in best of 3, there will be a lot of more information available usually. When watching the demos, you should always try to watch at least 3 demos per map. Try to avoid looking at older demos and focus on the recent matches. The more material you go through, the more confidence you can have on the tendencies that you discover. When watching the demos, look at individual tendencies and team tendencies. You can write down questions for yourself to find. Do they usually run same kind of pistol rounds? Do they use usually same utility patterns? Do they leave certain areas weak when they pressure elsewhere? Are certain timings repeated frequently? Do they favor one side of the map instead of the another? You're not looking at tricks, you're looking for patterns. Patterns create opportunity. I can give you an example. A team may constantly pressure one area at the same timing. That doesn't mean that you need to create completely new strategy. You may simply adjust your own timings and punish the expectation. The goal is not to create something new for the official. The goal is to improve the value of things you already know how to do. So let's say that you know your team style of play. Now we need to focus on their style of play. Are they very individual based or are they very team based? Fast, slow, reactive, proactive? Do they most of the time play through the smoke or do they avoid taking risks? Do they rotate aggressively? All these things affect your decisions. Knowing that the enemy might walk through the smokes a lot might affect your availability or possibility to rotate with the same timings that you usually do. You might want to create an opportunity for the enemy to think that they should walk through the smoke. Maybe you talk to your teammate and ask him to make steps away from the smoke, so for you to get an opportunity to kill the player that comes through the smoke. So we should start from your own team. Before you scout an enemy, you should understand your team very well. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that opponent might most likely target on? You should study your own demos as hard as you're studying the enemy's demos. Especially if the opponent seems to be adjusting their style of play depending on the enemy. You should always be asking from yourself, how could the enemy beat us? Sometimes the weakness is not mechanics, it's predictability. Sometimes it's a tendency that nobody in the team even notices. So that's why you need to take a closer look if there is one. Understanding how the opponent would try to win against you often creates the best opportunity for you for your own game plan. Let's talk about how does the enemy start the game. One thing that some people overlook is how the enemy usually starts the game, not just how they play. What is their tempo and what is their attitude? Do they start by taking control fast or do they simply try to find information at the start of the game? This matters because you need to be deciding how you want to approach the start of the game. And if there is a pattern, you maybe want to try to exploit that. You can start safe or you can show the enemies that you are willing to take the space and forcing them to react. Neither of these possibilities are per default correct. You just have to make a decision based on the information that you have and live with that and start building the rounds from the start to the finish. The most important thing is that it's conscious decision. When you're building a game plan, the pistol round is usually the point where the game plan becomes visible. Sometimes you just show the enemy at the start of the game that you have been preparing for this match. Sometimes you maybe want to choose not to. From the point onwards, you start to condition the game. You start by creating expectations. You are going to start to influence how the enemy wants to react. You begin to shape where the game is played at. For example, you might pressure yard on nuke repeatedly, then later suddenly attack A. The earlier rounds have already influenced how the opponent wants to defend. That is where the value comes from. A game plan is simply not a list of rounds. A game plan is prediction of how the game will develop and where you want to exploit the gaps that appear. One of the most important concepts for a coach is that the game should always have a direction. Not only before the match, but also during the match. From the first round until the end. At any moment, you should have an assumption of where the game is going to be played, what are the opponents protecting, what are they willing to give away, what opportunities are opening up. You are constantly asking, where should I play the next round? The answer changes, but the process does not. Let's talk about value of pauses. This is where coaches often have their biggest impact. During pauses, coaches usually have the clearest overview of the match. They can remember opponent openings, team openings, successful rounds, failed rounds, adjustments already made, because they are not focused on mechanical execution. A coach can often identify faster than anyone else where the game should be played next. They can also remind the team of tools that they still remain unused. Let's talk about success and failure. Success creates opportunities. When something works, the opponent usually has to react. The reaction often makes future decisions easier to predict. Now you can begin asking, what are they likely to block? Where are they likely to reinforce? What are they likely to fear? But failures are equally important. Many teams abandon ideas too quickly. An idea failing once does not necessarily mean that the idea was bad. Maybe the duel was lost. Maybe the timing was slightly off. Maybe communication failed. If you still have multiple options available, repeating the same idea can be extremely powerful. The opponent often expects change. They expect you to move somewhere else because you have failed there. And it was really good round for them. Because of that, one of the hardest things to read is the team that confidently repeats an idea after failing with it. Sometimes the strongest adjustment is no adjustment at all. Let's talk about individual notes. Beside the game plan, you can prepare small individual notes. You should maybe have 1 or maybe 2 points for players. It could be useful for players to react faster to the things that they see during the game. They have basically prepared before the game that maybe when this Molotov lands, there should be a gap so you can challenge an enemy from behind it, and they don't need to be like finding that out during the game, and maybe that opportunity was unused because you didn't know it before the game. So prepare those small things for individuals and send them prior to the game to them and go through them quickly during the warm-up phase on the game, that what do you want to see from your team and individuals. Do not prepare a handful like 10 points to each player, because that can overwhelm a player and that can affect a player in such way that they are only expecting those things and not playing a reaction game or with intuition. Let's talk about running the game plan. Every team has a different process. Maybe the coach or the IGL goes through it first. Maybe the coach creates it, or maybe the IGL creates it. It's all about how you have built your team and what are the responsibilities. There is no universal answer on how to do it. What matters the most is that everybody understands the game plan before the match starts. You should be able to go through that in your team's warm-up time, not at the official server. Go that through in your own server, or maybe run it with prac game, and then you have like one run already been done with the game plan and you know how it's going to work. My final thoughts. Scouting, anti-strating, game plans, they are not required to win. Many teams win without them. However, they increase the probability to win. The key is adaptation. The best coaches are not the ones with the most notes, but the ones who can make the adjustments. And regarding the adaptation is to help the team perform better. We are not talking about only tactical, but mental, performance, whatever it takes. You should always know your team. I talked about this in the first part of the video series. When you know your team, you know what they require from you or from the environment to work the best way that they can. And not everything is in your hands. You should always remember that also. So create a space where everybody can have success. Create a space where maybe somebody else is helping a teammate that requires specific help that you cannot provide, but you have like made a system that creates that possibility. The goal is pretty simple. Create clarity, create trust, create better decisions. This is how the preparation turns in results. I hope you liked this video and see you in the next video. Bye.